Are you thinking about setting up your own track system for your horses, but you're not entirely sure what to include or avoid? Join me and I'll give you some suggestions. Hello and welcome back to the Naturally YouTube channel. I'm Marianne and I'm passionate about helping you to heal your horse, mind, body and soul naturally. Now today it's all about the things that I avoid and the things that I go out of my way to include in my track system for my horse's benefit. Now I'm aware not everybody will have the amount of space that I do, but it should give you an idea of some things that you might be able to include, things that you aren't sure if you should avoid. You may also have small fields like this one, which has got features in it that you want to include. This is our copse field, so we really want the horses to benefit from the trees, i.e. the shelter, natural rubbing posts, and also natural posts for us to put nets up on. You may also need to be aware of things that you want to avoid. For example, in here we've got some little trees that we're trying to grow, and it means that we've got actually quite a lot of electric tape. And is it all worth it having to use all that electric tape the way that it is, keeping it electrified with various batteries, ferrying the batteries all the way up here to change them on a regular basis? Is it worth it for the amount of space that they get, the amount of interaction, the amount of elements that we can include? Something to consider. You may also want to think about any works that you're planning on doing, such as this pile here. This is from a tree that we took down last year. We're going to have a bonfire or a shredder of some kind, which means we're going to want the horses away from it, so perhaps we won't put them in this field this year. If cutting this section off sooner rather than later means you've then got the ability to do what you need to do whenever you feel like it, it saves you a lot of time and effort. We've taken down some of these trees this year, so we're planning on not having the horses in this entire section, and that's absolutely fine. Some parts of your track system you will rest more than others for various reasons throughout the year. It might be that some areas are a lot lusher grasses which aren't great in the spring but are better for your horses in the winter, or you have sections that just get that little bit muddier due to lower lying, closer to water, etc. And that's fine to shut those off as well. So we're shutting off this section so that we can sort these trees out whilst our horses aren't in the way, or we don't have to think about moving them or moving a load of electric fencing. So saving ourselves a job for later on. There may be certain elements that you want to include into your track system, certain features that are naturally there within your fields, which are absolutely perfect to engage your horse's brain and stimulate them throughout the day. Give them different things to play with, different options of things to poke at and ferret at. It's a great idea to include things such as this log that I'm sat on. Now some people would be a bit concerned by this because it's a little bit, it's movable, but that's not actually a problem. As I say, it gives the horses something to think about. If they start rubbing on it, it will move, and oh, what's that? Different sensation. And it might be that they come up to it at one point and it's here, and then they come up to it a few days later and it's over there. Again, mental stimulation, getting them used to the fact that things move. And they've done that themselves by rubbing on it, but it also does give them the relief of having a scratching post that's a bit higher up. So this would be perfect for hocks, or for Little Spring, that little booty of hers. Trees that we've taken down, just like this one, can actually be left in the fields. Now, I know you're thinking, oh my goodness, my horse is going to go trotting or cantering across the field, fly over it and break its neck. Not always, not necessarily. I have found that having things like just these naturally left in the field, or I've chopped them down and haven't had the time because, you know, I've got other stuff to do, or it's just started to pee down with rain, so I've actually left them where they are. The horses have interacted with them. Again, used them as scratching posts for my cobs with their feathers. They find them really helpful. But they're also great for encouraging the horse to lift their feet up as they walk over them, which has been absolutely amazing for my older gentleman, the Major. At 29 years old, he's got great flexibility because he's figured out that he needs to pick up his feet over these. And that extra action, the lifting action, has done wonders for his muscles. So a great idea. And also for my youngsters, it's made them think about where their feet are, made them consider themselves in the different paces. So with trotting, when they first go over them, they look very, very ungainly. Legs are everywhere. They're like, oh my God, what do I do? But after a while, they figure the feet out. They figure out the paces, and sometimes they lengthen and shorten the strides so that they sort it out themselves, which means there's something less that I have to teach them. And instead, in the future, when I'm riding them, I can point them at an object and go on, I want you to trot, and they'll sort it out. And it also teaches them to jump as well, in their own way, and to find the joy in it. There's nothing worse than pointing your horse at a jump and it going, no, I can't do that, that's too scary, or they don't know how to jump. Whereas a log like this, or an even bigger log such as the one behind me, if they decide to jump it, that's something for them to figure out themselves and develop in their own way. So a really, really great idea to leave trees like these, or just logs, whatever you feel like, leave them around. See what the horses do with them, see how they interact with them, and see how it helps them to develop both physically and mentally. Are you enjoying this video? If you are, let me know in the comments below. Also, make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon so you get a notification about all future videos. Now, back to it. So if you think about things to avoid, this is the biggest one for me. This is the public. So this behind me is a road gate onto the road from one of our fields, and it's something that I make sure my horses aren't anywhere near. Now, while yes, it's great for the horses to be near the road so that they can get used to the sound of the cars, the whooshing, the speed, the tractors, the lorries, the trailers, the other horses that go by that are being ridden, people, cyclists, all of that desensitization is really, really great. But if you have people next to your horses, you have to deal with consequences, which means they might end up feeding them things which you're not aware of, which might cause a lot of health issues, especially if you've got your horses on the Paddock Paradise track system. You've generally got them on them for a very good reason. And sometimes when you've got horses with health issues, it can be a lot more harm than good. So this is something that I avoid like the plague. If you have a different view, that's absolutely fine. Something else to think about are low-hanging trees. Is the variety good for your horse? If so, why not include it in your track system? It's great for the variety in their diet, not to mention great for their bodies to be leaning up and naturally foraging from above them, and also great for the mental stimulation of finding something that's up rather than down. Another thing to think about is rights of way and access to your land. Now, you might have people that have a right to walk across your land for various reasons, footpath, or there's a telegraph pole, which means you might have a company which trape across the land without a second thought to your animals. So for your own horse's health, welfare and mental safety, I would suggest making sure that your track system is nowhere near anywhere that anybody else would have access to. A feature that we really like to include in our track system wherever possible is this water hole. Now, we have to be sensible about it though, in the fact that in the winter it gets really, really high, really, really stodgy, and it's not really safe. However, in the summer months, it is so much fun for our horses. It dries out, they get to run up and down it and just have a whirl of a time. Not to mention, they get access to the willow trees and they generally strip the leaves off. Willows are absolutely beneficial for your horse's health and welfare, so it's very good for them to have access to. If you have a water hole such as this or a pond or whatever, make sure that it is safe for your horses. If you can walk through it safely without any issues, then your horse should be fine. However, that's not a rule of thumb. Just be aware of your horse's abilities, their stature, their size, and whether it's really sensible for them to have access to it. Something else to consider are the hedgerows. Whilst in the spring and summer months they're really thick and luscious and so nutritious for our horses that we want them to have access to them, during the winter months this actually gets quite gappy, which means it then becomes a security risk. So then we've got to allocate electric fencing to come down here during the winter months, or we've got to rearrange the track system to protect this, or rearrange the track system away from this to somewhere that's just that little bit more secure. Something to think about when you're planning. Now, because my track system is semi-permanent, I actually have some of these wooden posts sunk into the ground, and I've got my isolators attached to them so that they can provide extra structure for the track system. Now, whilst I can incorporate now these into every single track system that I do in this field, I don't technically have to. I can still put in the standard electric fence posts wherever I want to, but it's not sensible because I can use them elsewhere if I use these. So think about it. If your track system is becoming permanent in its structure, in the way that you put it, or certain points just need that little bit more protection because they're points of weakness, think about sinking posts into the ground to provide that extra structure and allow you to free up some of your equipment for use elsewhere. Something else to think about is your water source for your horses. Do you have something permanent, such as this here, or do you have something that is movable, such as water tubs or smaller water troughs? So if you've got something permanent like this, it's very, very sensible to include it in your track system so you've got less to worry about, it's already there. But if you've got movable water tubs or smaller plastic water troughs, you need to think about where you're going to put them. They need to be at a different place from your hay source so that you encourage movement around your track, but they've also got to be easily accessible so that you can fill them on a regular basis in the middle of winter when it's a bit more muddy or cold, or that sort of thing. So you need it so that it's, say, closer to the tap, or easily accessible if you've got your water bowser on a trailer and you bring it into the field. So think about easy accessibility to make your life easier whilst also encouraging the movement of the horses around your track system. So there you go. I hope that that's given you an idea of what you may include or what you may possibly want to avoid in creating your own track system. I hope you've enjoyed it. If so, let me know in the comments below. Also, make sure you're subscribed and you click the bell icon so you get notification about all future videos. Check us out on Facebook, join the Facebook group, and check us out on Instagram. We're naturally_Willa for virtually daily updates on the herd. I'll see you again soon. Bye!